wonderful introduction. And Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, my special thanks to His Excellency Mohammed Al Dihemi, Ambassador, Embassy of the State of Qatar in Beijing, China, and also His Excellency Zhou Jian, Ambassador, Embassy of the People of the Republic of China in the State of Qatar, and the fellow speakers who have lined up as my very special welcome to Madam Sara Sada, the Counselor, Embassy of the State of Qatar in Beijing, Liu Chun, the Vice President, Chamber of Commerce, and Liu Yong, Secretary General of the Chinese Business Council in Qatar, and Henry Wong is a known face for us, partner in M&A and Private Equity, KPMG Advisory, China Limited. Along with them, we have Doha Bank representatives who are all assembled here in this virtual conference to support the bilateral opportunities in terms of trade or investments, banking or finance. We live in extraordinary time. We live in a changing phase of the world. As Peter has just mentioned, COVID pandemic has redefined the new world. Extraordinary set of risk and governance, economic governance, social governance, environmental governance, human governance have been getting redefined. The risks have been mapped into various initiatives, whether financial or non-financial or healthcare. We have come to a new world order where we aim at sustainable growth. Global agenda has changed. In terms of economic governance, liquidity was a major concern. That's why countries around the world have put trillions of dollars put together, and then from the liquidity, debt servicing capacity has been eased. We also had human governance. It's tragedy. We lost nearly over 3 million people, and we have 177 million people infected. The outcome in terms of governance, Chinese governance, has been exemplary, less than 100,000, and mortality rate is also bad, 4636. That's the number last I saw. Similarly, Qatar's eminent governance has exceedingly well administering this crisis and not, endangering the financial stability or the overall healthcare. The healthcare system has responded to the challenge, and we have mortality rate nearly 580 people, and we also have fully vaccinated over 42%. So we have two countries who are efficiently administering. And how do we promote the bilateral values? Bilateral trade is significant. I'm sure the fellow speakers are going to discuss. Bilateral investments are growing. Bilateral banking, ever since I recognized the opportunity in 2004 and 5, Doha Bank Board of Directors and the central banks permitted us to set our footprint. And essentially, 2006, we commenced our operation. 2007, we inaugurated. Subsequently, I was disseminating knowledge time and again, whether it's 2010 or 13 or 15 or 14, the central bank governor of Qatar, His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah bin Saud Al Thani, we visited, we met the central bank, and we admire the governance in China. We recognize the opportunities which are enlisting. When it comes to further to grow, how do we further come and develop these prospects? How do we make sure small or big or medium entrepreneurs or individual or institutions, how do we promote the bilateral values? That's the purpose of the session. And let me invite Qatari investors to look at objectively, and similarly, we welcome the Chinese investors to Qatar. We have a lot to offer. I'm going to showcase, it set the tone for my presentation, next one. I'm going to showcase, Madam Sara has already outlined so much in her content. Now, I'm going to show exactly precisely what are the opportunities in Qatar and how do we synergize the opportunities between Qatar and China. Let me move on to my presentation. Now, let's also look at, for a minute, the global perspective. Now, last year, the global growth was a contraction in substance. The only country which stood out in terms of a positive is China, 2.3%. And this year again, it is, Peter was conservative in saying 6%, but IMF said it is 8.4%. Let me move on to the World Bank. This month, they have revised even if you look at numbers, it's much more conservative, because unless you are vaccinating the entire world, it's contentious now, which sustainable framework we can trade our investments, banking, or finance. How do we bring in global growth and global sustainability unless you vaccinate advanced economies or developing economies or rich or poor countries? This crisis has defied all the logics. So we need to make sure one and all on this planet, 6.8 billion people, are fully secure in terms of their living. So essentially, and that's what the focus now. You touched on a sustainable frame, and that's what we are going to look at. The global economies, if you look at the global perspective, things have changed. US Fed action, now the low interest scene, now it's contemplated whether inflation, as we speak, we are parity linked to dollar, Qatar economy, if you look at the currency, Qatar Riyal, but the interest rate is conservative, and the zero rate is nearly zero rate, I should say. Now, with the inflation, the ascending move, but is it transitory? Is it real? It's going to be permanent. We need to listen to tonight, FOMC meeting as well from the Fed. Now, one thing whole world has engaged in the last 1.5 years is to recognize we need to reduce the interest rate. We have to protect the consumers, common man, and give the subsidies, give the small and medium-sized entrepreneurs the debt servicing capacity for futuristic options. So they improve the liquidity. They pump trillions of dollars. Qatar itself, $20.5 billion was pumped. Now, if you look at the US Fed action, it's clear. They're not thinking of interest rate, but the inflation, transitory inflation is an issue. Let us listen today and conclude. Qatar economy is very promising. We know the economic momentum is in the right direction, and the overall, while the global cases is 176 million, death is around 3.82 million. Global vaccination is around 6.2%. Qatar perspective, we have vaccinated over 42%. Our mortality rate is around 580. So the infrastructure has worked, as I said in my preface. The advanced economies, even according to World Bank, is going to perform a maximum of 5.4%. And developing economies, instead of original prediction, IMF 6.7%, 6%, Qatar economy will be nearing 3% performance. And the latest speech of His Highness Qatar's Emir's address in St. Petersburg International Forum was thought-provoking. He outlined the 2030 visions in terms of governance, all the 4 pillars: economic, social, environment, and the human. At the same time, the development strategy for Qatar has been well outlined. It's going to be on multiple ground. We are going to recognize Qatar is an opportunity. I'll showcase in the coming slides. Now, if you look at the fiscal policy with the oil price taken at $40, it shows a deficit of 35 billion Qatari riyal. Now, oil price, the first quarter was over $61.2 per barrel. In one fabric, if Qatar is an LNG producer predominantly, and if it's non-OPEC as on date, and we know Qatar's plans are in hydrocarbon as well as non-hydrocarbon is very promising. And that's where the Chinese companies are going to play a big role. Now, in terms of economics, we have greater prospects. Now, if you look at the economic momentum Qatar is embarking on, it is 166 billion as taking the predictions sometimes in April. Now, things have moved. Things have moved, and it's going to touch nearly 200 billion. And the gross debt to GDP is around 59%. And the percentage of the overall, if you look at even the deficit, is nominal. and we have surplus in current account. That's what exactly the reality is going to be. And the fiscal side, both sides, we're going to have fiscal surplus as well as current account surplus on account of the ensuing opportunities in terms of oil, and again, oil converted fabric of LNG. Now, we have reasons to believe we are going to grow, and the banking system is growing in the right direction. Lending growth for the first 4 months is around 5.26%. The deposit growth is around 4.2%. Consumption is growing in the right direction, 6.8%. And most of the sectors are all in positive territories. Clearly shows Qatar economy and the banking system is stable and functional, and liquidity issues have been well managed by Qatar Central Bank and the Ministry of Finance. Now we have seen a lot of opportunities coming up in terms of overall economic momentum. Qatar Central Bank unveils the new currency note as well, and by end of this month, the old currencies will be weeded out. We have new currency, which is with advanced digital security makeup, is quite potential to protect the common man. On the hydrocarbon side, listen to the energy minister. It's been very promising. We know it's going to move from 77 million metric ton to 110 in North Field East. Again, North Field South also is moving thereafter. So this is what he has to say.
As far as the Northfield expansion projects, we have two projects, Northfield East, which we just announced sanctioning, and the Northfield South. So the Northfield East would take us from 77 million tons to 110 million tons per annum. And then Northfield South, which we will announce early next year, will take us to 126 million tons. We've announced our strategy. Our strategy is very clear and is defined. These are very robust projects. We just mentioned last week that the total project cost for Northfield East is $28.75 billion to produce 32 million tons per annum of LNG by 2025. This is one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive project on the planet today, and we're very proud of that, and we're moving ahead for our long-term vision of reaching 126 and maybe more.
That's interesting. And that's amazing in terms of overall vision as well as execution. Now the tenders are out. Now most of the companies are looking at investment partnership, joint ventures. I'm sure the outcome is going to be useful for Chinese companies as well. China plays a big role. The Chinese National Oil Company, Qatar Petroleum are always together in terms of investment partnership and joint ventures, and the projects which are ensuing are going to be useful for both sides. Now, he also has to say in terms of sustainability and value creation.
If you look at what's people don't talk about today, 30% approximately of the world power is actually fired by coal. Okay, if you take the Northfield expansion NFE project that we just sanctioned last week, just the NFE, not the NFS, and you just take that project and you say, I'm going to replace that volume of gas to fire up electric generation instead of coal, you actually reduce the CO2 emission in the world by 125 million tons per annum. That is equivalent to 25 million cars emissions in a year.
That's what is important, reducing the carbon emission. Qatar has signed on zero net emission, and we have seen reflection in terms of the energy security for emerging market, including China. Energy mix is changing, I should say. So it's all opportunity, and more you need to reduce the carbon emission. Carbon neutral society is an opportunity for quality living. We have to create a better world. That's the whole purpose. And when it comes to cabinet reforms, they have decided to support all the companies. They extended the support for the corporates, business houses, small or medium, and they have waived certain rental utilities. Wage protection has been announced, and up to September, as on date, perhaps it remains to be seen how the overall COVID situation taking a shape in the coming months. And Qatar government is progressively administering the overall support to the business community. We postpone the installments, we postpone the interest. We are also making sure business continuity is ultimate for overall productivity. Qatar trade development, everyone has talked about it. It's an important opportunity, and we need to understand it is meaningful. The bilateral relationship is going in the right direction, 11.7 billion, and we have reasons to believe the Chinese bilateral trade will move up. Trade developments within the overall export-import now is touching triple in the last 1 year. It is in Qatar export market and import market, if you look at to 13 billion nearly, and we know Qatar is getting set. All of us around the world is looking forward this FIFA 2022. This is what the Secretary General of FIFA 2022, Mr. Asim Tawadi, has to say.
Especially considering that we're coming out of COVID-19, I genuinely believe it'll be the first global celebration where we will collectively have overcome COVID and we will collectively be able to celebrate this tournament and create a lasting bond. And that's why I think it's when I always thought it was previously significant, I believe the significance has become even more.
Significance is even more. We know Chinese economy is a promising economy, 16.6 trillion. And again, the percentage of GDP, gross debt is 69%, and we have current account surplus. We have per capita is moving in the right direction to nearing $11,819. So if you look at the big picture, both the countries can complement each other in multiple forms. Now, when it comes to the fiscal side, Chinese management, fiscal prudence, and again, monetary prudence has been prolific. Chinese economy, as I said earlier, 2.3%. And Chinese central bank pumped medium-term lending facility nearly $15.5 billion. They made sure all the measures to pull back yuan from a 3-year high. And People's Bank of China stated that financial institutions should increase more their foreign exchange deposits. Central bank set the yuan midpoint to fix. And essentially, as I said, the pandemic itself is well managed. 91.4 thousand cases total, death is only 4,636. Vaccination has been quite meaningful. They fully vaccinated 223 million. That stands in terms of the business opportunity as well. Now, in terms of trade, Chinese trade is 11.7 billion and 7.8 million, mainly LNG and petrochemicals. And Qatar imports from China is nearly 3.9 billion. Qatar Petroleum signs now a 10-year LNG deal with China. Petroleum will supply Chinese Sinopec with 2 million tons per year LNG for a 10-year term. That's interesting, isn't it? Qatar's China hydrocarbon story is quite promising. When it comes to aviation side, I'm comparing both sides together in tandem so that the viewers get the best value. Fully vaccinated flight. Here is a clip from the Chief Executive, Akbar Al-Bakr.
These Qatar Airways staff members are all fully vaccinated, and so are all these passengers. The airline wants to reassure millions of people that air travel is safe even during the pandemic.
We want to be the first airline in the world to do a fully vaccinated flight, both including passengers and the crew. And Qatar has a very aggressive vaccination program, and so we at the airline level have a very aggressive vaccination program. We have vaccinated nearly 20,000 of our employees, and we vaccinate around 1,000 employees every day.
So the airport is well set. Aviation is happening to the trade, seaport or airport. Everyone is well set in terms of managing this crisis. Let me listen to one of my trade finance experts, meanwhile. Namit Gatani, can you tell me how the bilateral trade opportunities, you're a trade finance head, tell me how is it shaping up between Qatar and China?
Thank you, sir, and good morning to all distinguished guests and speakers. Thank you for asking that question, sir. Qatar and China have a strong bilateral relationship, as mentioned by all, and we know. In terms of Doha Bank and trade finance, we can support in multiple areas. Already a huge volume, nearly 12 billion is existing. You mentioned the major counterparties, Qatar Gas, PetroChina, Sinopec, they are doing. Just from a trade finance perspective, I would like to mention, say, a few examples and the product level, how we can support for an easy understanding. Say, in terms of exports, the vital requirements are like LC advising, confirmation, discounting. So any trade happening for Qatari exports to China, we from Doha Bank can handle these products and can facilitate the export trade. Similarly, on the other hand, when it comes to import, which like Qatar is importing from China, computers, machineries, heavy machineries, computer chips, and so many other articles, so many other items. There are a lot of large as well as SME companies in Qatar who are importing, and at the other end, Chinese corporates are exporting. We can support by LC issuing, and we can ensure a smooth facilitation by our partner banks in China. So we can cover both the exports as well as the import side of trade. Similarly, when it comes to the project space, as you mentioned, the large gas projects, LNG projects happening in Qatar, and in case of Chinese companies' participation in those projects, they may need the tender bonds and the performance bond. And with Doha Bank, we can provide those facilities, products, and services to enable Chinese companies to participate in those projects.
Correct.
Similarly, on the free zone, I would like to say, in case of Chinese conglomerates setting up free zone establishment here, we from Doha Bank side can facilitate all kind of trade finance and transactional banking support to those companies operating out of free zone. In overall summary, I think with the kind of huge volumes and our reach, partner banks, and the products and services and the corporate coverage in Doha, we are well positioned to cover all aspects, be it exports from Qatar or imports into Qatar from China.
That's interesting. You prompted on the Qatar free zones, and there are 3 free zones, and all of them are geared up now. They have set aside 3 billion Qatar Riyal for supporting the SMEs. This is an opportunity where I would like to invite the Chinese companies to take advantage of. Come and set it up. Doha Bank is there, Qatar Development Bank is there to support Chinese companies and give you the facilities. It's appropriate to bring in the corporate banking side. Mr. Ahmad Naji, can you enlighten how we can facilitate loan or overdraft or funded or non-funded for the Chinese companies? Ahmad Naji, are you there? No, I'm not getting a response. Let me update you for a minute. We have, as Namit has mentioned, non-funded, we can support funded Chinese companies with the reference comes from Business Council here or from the Chamber of Commerce or from our representatives. We are going to objectively measure this and do our diligence and ensure we'll facilitate them. We understand the Chinese company banks are well positioned. They support us and we want to support the business in turn. Let me invite the head of my international banking group, Mr. Andre Seman. Andre, how is the Chinese bank relationship? How is it growing partnership between Chinese banks and Doha Bank?
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session. It is a particularly important one for us as Doha Bank, and particularly related to the financial institutions and the banks. We hold a very close relationship with most of the banks in China, and also with their branches and offices across the world, and including here in Qatar. We are very close, interacting with them on many levels, on the trade finance side, as Namit has mentioned, and also in lending and borrowing. activities as well as on the treasury and investment side. So we have a very extensive relationship, but I think there's a lot of scope for expanding this relationship, especially on the trade side. We have seen a lot of interaction, but yes, in particular, the trade will be welcome, and also the obviously the interaction between the corporates here in Qatar and in China. Also would like to emphasize our regional footprint and international footprint, where we are present in 14 countries in terms of rep offices and 3 countries in the region, in Kuwait and UAE and India. So today's session is not just about Qatar and China, but also to leverage the interaction between the regional expertise that we have in these countries I've mentioned. We have seen also a lot of business being routed through Doha Bank in India, where we've got 3 branches in 3 different cities. So from there, we can also link up with Chinese banks who needs expertise and a footprint and a trusted partner in India for that matter. And the same can be replicated in the UAE and Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where we have branches. And Kuwait is equally as equipped to handle all inquiries and all business related trade, any kind of activities with Chinese companies and Chinese banks. So we really welcome and we really invite the Chinese banks to get in touch with us, and we can be their sole entry, their single entry into these markets, and equip them to do business and expand business.
Yeah, very well said, Andre. You touched not only bilateral, multilateral. That is what exactly you can see the opportunities in multifold. We can connect these points and make sure that you have trade between these 2 countries in addition to the specific target. International airport is well geared. I'm not going to dwell on it for want of time. 2 of my colleagues are still there, and we want to make sure that not only the institutions are taken care, individuals are taken care. It is very important that we understand.
This was announced towards the end of the day yesterday by the PBOC, so financial institutions will need to increase their holdings of foreign exchange reserves from 5% to 7%, so a 2% increase, by the way, from June the 15th. And the idea from policymakers, of course, is that you reduce the amount of dollars and other currencies that are onshore here. That pressures the yuan, and it is real action then by policymakers to take a swipe at a currency that, of course, has surged versus the dollar to a 3-year high.
That's interesting. That's why I admired the fiscal side of it. The monetary side also now is evolving to be a fine combination. So that's where the discipline, once there is an alignment between fiscal and monetary policy, then the financial stability comes in. China has done exceedingly well. Now, when it comes to the overall bilateral opportunities, there are plenty. We would like to invite the individuals to Doha Bank and our branch network, wherever you are, to make sure that we support you, whether it's a car loan or a consumer loan or housing loan, or welcome back. My retail representation is from Sharif. What can we do for individuals, Chinese who are landing in Qatar for employment or business? Sharif? Are you there? Right. So what we are trying to articulate here is to recognize that our banking products are second to none. Individuals, we want to welcome them. We want to give them the necessary support when they land here and open the account, digital support, electronic commerce, and whatever the facilities you need, whether salary-related loan or car loan or consumer loan, as I said, it can be facilitated. Credit cards, we can support the individuals, Chinese who are in employment or business, or the business houses who have got employees. We can support them through wage protection systems. We can regularly pay their wages to their home country as well with our relationship across. And our representative office in China, Peter, is doing a great job, and he's there to monitor these transactions as well. On the Qatar-China hydrocarbon, I already outlined. We have growing relationship. We have signed the contract, and
The Communist Party of China's top foreign affairs officials has held talks in Doha with the Emir of Qatar. Yang Jiechi told Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani that China supports Qatar in following a development that suits its own national conditions, and said China is willing to work with the country to strengthen development and deepen cooperation in China's Belt and Road Initiative. Sheikh Tamim said Qatar hopes to further develop relations with China and said his country adheres to the One China principle and supports China in defending its core interest.
That's absolutely the case. That's what Madam Sarah was trying to articulate. The diplomatic relationship, G2G, is growing strong. B2B is an opportunity we need to recognize. When it comes to double taxation, Henry has already mentioned that avoidance of double taxation. And this is the agreement which was signed. And in fact, I recall my opening of the branch in 2007 and subsequent roadshows when China was showcasing the expo. It was a grand affair, and we had great participation from various banks. It was in 2010, and again, we did in China roadshows in 2013 to disseminate information. We're going to keep doing it. Now, physically, we couldn't come, but that's why this virtual conference was scheduled. 2014 again, the governor of the central bank visited along with the banking system. So I was a participant as well. So we have reasons to believe that we have growing relationship, and Qatar is the first country in the Gulf to admit Chinese yuan as a clearing. So we have reason to believe that we should further have bilateral opportunities. And free zone, Namit has mentioned, we have a lot of money. We have the biggest opportunity exists in terms of small and medium-sized entrepreneurs. Some of the advantages which is already spelled out have been showcased now. Now, financial center where Bank of China is located or ICBC is located, again, is a world-class financial center. I'm not, for want of time, we started for 10 minutes late. We are going to finish in the next 5 minutes. And the questions have already been answered. Financial center has been world-class in terms of regulatory alignment or business development. It's rapid pace of acceleration in terms of business investments by global. And we are concentrating on sports, digital, financial, and media. Business opportunities still exist, these 4 areas. So we have reasons to believe that's in the right direction. Qatar has realigned the framework to improve the business climate. Qatar Investment Law has been prolific. Non-Qataris can own 100%, and repatriation is possible. That promulgation came in January 2019. Subsequent, also interesting, public-private partnership model. So there's a huge opportunity for healthcare or education sectors. Government will be a partner with you. And this new law was pronounced last year in June. And subsequently, we also have property law, which came in October 2020, recognizing individuals who want permanent residency. Chinese who would like to settle here for permanent residency is an opportunity again. If you get healthcare or education is supported, if you pay a specified amount and you have clean track records. So it is important that property law is going to improve the overall real estate conditions in the local market, plus it's an opportunity. When it comes to Qatar's modern living, infrastructure creations, modernization in terms of the airport or seaport or road or rail, it is a good opportunity. Qatar is a good investment destinations.
What are the most important sectors for you? If I speak to somebody in Dublin, they're racing after tech. If I speak to other people around Europe, they're focusing on financial services post-Brexit. So for you, what is the most important sector for you to draw in that can deliver the quickest ramp up and impact on the economy?
Yes. With diversification at the heart of Qatar's forward-looking strategy, and especially with light of the current shift in consumer behavior and market dynamics, this is kind of creating a focus on innovative sectors that are expected to thrive in the new economy. And here we look at several promising sectors, one of which is fintech. And the pandemic is inspiring more partnerships among financial and non-financial institutions due to the growing adoption of IoT-enabled payments. Advanced manufacturing is another area where we are focusing, and especially with Qatar embracing Industry 4.0. Healthcare, especially in light of COVID, medical supplies and health-connected businesses have witnessed a spike in demand. Smart cities is an area where we see Qatar has a qualitative advantage with the world's first greenfield smart city in Lusail and another brownfield development. Logistics and supply chain and education is another area where we see is very promising.
That's interesting, isn't it? That's what Investment Promotion Agency of Qatar CEO Ali Al-Walid is saying. Let me invite at this time my head of Treasury Investments, who is waiting in the wings to showcase what's one single investments which can give you a lot of opportunities based on Qatar's economic barometer and the financial strength. Guni Silholt is my head of Treasury Investments. Guni, what do you have to say in terms of Qatar Exchange Traded Program?
Yeah, good afternoon. So if we try to look at Qatar very briefly from through the lens of foreign investors, there are two things that come immediately to mind: strong fundamentals and good relative value. Now, this is probably more important now than ever. All investors are trying to figure out which companies are going to be bouncing back from the COVID situation quickly, and how they can get relative value out of those movements. So in terms of, if you look at it as a strong fundamentals, then second to none is the strength of the government. We have a government, state of Qatar is a doubly rated country. It has over 200 billion riyals in foreign reserves, and that underpins the whole economy, the strength as a fundamentally strong economy. Now, some of the countries have that as well, but they don't usually have the relative value that comes with it. So when I talk about relative value, there's various things that investors can look at in Qatar. The stock market is extremely robust, and we have an interesting product that investors, both large and small, can invest in. It's called QETF. It's effectively a fund that mirrors the performance of the local stock index. And that's been out in offering for 3 years and has performed extremely strong. For fixed income investors, there's a plethora of opportunities as well. Government bonds with nice positive returns in dollar or local currency, and also the bonds issued by local banks like Doha Bank, which offer second to none returns to investors focusing on this highly focus on investments that have high quality, single A rated or better. So opportunities, they are plenty, and they are very interesting for anybody to take a look.
Yeah, interesting. That's a single investments, Qatar Exchange Traded Funds, which represents the major shares, whether it is banking or insurance or petrochemical companies. So that's where your investment becomes easy, and Doha Bank and the partners are making sure right investment management is done. Now, just to conclude, the recent regulations, Qatar foreign ownership listed companies is now increased to 100%. That's as good as April 2021. That's a welcome change. This is going to bring in more and more investments to the country, and they will partake in the economic momentum on those listed enterprise and make the best return on investments. Things are happening. This is what exactly Qatar Exchange Traded Fund Gurnia has just mentioned, and it is very successfully administered. And Qatar food security has been very profound since 2017. Qatar's self-reliance has scaled up, whether it is agriculture, grain, or poultry, or water conservation, where we have financed billions Qatar riyals to have water security today. Qatar is self-sufficient in terms of food security. That's most important. And we also have a Fintech Hub. We have Qatar Development Bank handling this. It's going in the right directions. And innovators, you're most welcome to join. It's the most promising sectors. That's what Mr. Al-Wali just mentioned. Now we want to make sure that Chinese companies comes and take this opportunity, and it is cost effective for you to set it up here and make sure you create your own niche and work with partners across in terms of business and use this gateway for global export or service standards. So that is what exactly the Fintech Hub is all about. And business startups is being supported by Qatar, and we have startup incubators are being supported. Last but not the least, everyone's touched upon Qatar's sustainable development. We are committed for a green mission. We are offsetting the carbon emission. We have reasons to believe socio-economic projects, social risk management is equally important. And we want to make sure sustainability, LNG itself as energy efficient, environment friendly, is quite meaningful from the green perspective. And Qatar's commitment to society is environmental development, a balance between development needs and protecting the environment. So both are vital. We are striking balance. That's what Vision 2030 is talking about. And that's all I have to say. And thank you very much for your kind attention. The fellow speakers have answered all your questions, so I'm not scheduling a separate question answer session. And I will now request Peter Lowe to say a word of thanks. And I personally would like to thank one and all, including Madam Sada from the Qatar Embassy in Beijing, who participated with so much energy and enthusiasm.